On this week's Political Figure episode, we've got one of the only people with any constitutional fortitude in Congress, Mr. Al Green. Al Green was born September 1st, 1947 in New Orleans, Louisiana. The motherfucker is almost 80 years old and is showing more fucking spirit than 95% of Congress. Also, motherfucker does not look anywhere near 80. The whole black don't crack thing is a trope, but it's true. I mean, we definitely got AOC and Jasmine Crockett out here showing a lot of heart, but aside from them, the fact that Al Green and Bernie Sanders are out here carrying the team is a bad look, Congress. Hakeem needs to take some notes because there's grandpas out here making him look like a little bitch. He attended Texas A&M, Howard, and Tuskegee Institute before eventually getting his Juris Doctor from Thurgood Marshall School of Law. After getting his Juris Doctor and being accepted to the bar, he founded a law firm, became president of the NAACP, and in 1977 he was elected as Justice of the Peace of Harris County, Texas, a position he would hold until 2004. In 2004, he ran for Texas's 9th District in the U.S. House of Representatives and won by a lot. Like 35 percentage points, a lot. And apparently he hasn't gotten any less popular in his district because he's won re-election 10 times. Now, normally I'm not a huge fan of people who have been sitting in their congressional seat since Christ was crucified, holding on to it for his second coming, but occasionally there's some exceptions to the rule, like Bernie, and Al Green, who, like a fine wine, only seems to be better representing his constituents with time. Now, until recently, Al's led a pretty quiet career in Congress, spending most of his time championing civil rights causes like fair pay, fair housing, fair hiring practices, you know, all the stuff we didn't really do great on before and just decided to do away with altogether recently. But apparently seeing the Jim Crow cantaloupe disgrace the Oval Office has lit a fire under Al Green's ass, and he has emerged as one of the few leaders willing to make waves in Congress. All the way back in 2017, Al Green was one of the first reps to submit articles of impeachment against the Mellon felon for firing James Comey. In 2019, Al submitted articles of impeachment once again against the Connell, this time for him disparaging 4 congresswomen of color by telling them to go back to where they came from, all of whom are American citizens, like AOC, who was born here in New York and whose parents are from Puerto Rico, which is also here. However, Donald doesn't know that, though. He just thinks that Puerto Rico is one of those shithole countries with a paper towel shortage his campaign made him stop at one time because he forgot to use his magic marker to redirect a hurricane around it. Also in 2019, still feeling froggy, during a congressional hearing with a bunch of bank CEOs, he asked them all why they were white. And he was basically asking why there's no people of color on the boards of any of these big banks, asking companies like JP Morgan if they'd profited off the institution of slavery, just basically trying to bring to light the lack of diversity and representation people of color have in big businesses like these big banks, trying to show how these big banks exploit people of color. All good points and points I see he was trying to make, but I think looking back at it, it sort of missed the intent that he was going for with it, unfortunately. But DEI is dead now anyway, so I guess, you know, what difference does it make? Which is great, because now in Trump's America, we can stop worrying about hiring qualified brown people for diversity and equity and inclusion and just focus on hiring the most qualified, unqualified, white, drunk, child molesting men. He then got pretty quiet again for the Biden years, but ever since Kangas Convict's re-election, he has been making waves once again, giving fiery speeches that have been going viral on social media, and most famously became probably the most famous congressman in America today at Trump's not State of the Union address to Congress thing, where he basically decided the Democrats showing up with their auction paddles and pink jackets were a bunch of fucking losers, and he was gonna throw down till he got thrown the fuck out. He took his glucosamine, he did his stretches, turned down his hearing aid to make sure that he was yelling extra loud, and then in super old man fashion, he stood up and pointed and started shaking his cane at Donald Trump, yelling at him about cutting Medicaid, and heckled the shit out of him until he got escorted out. To quote Barney Stinson, it was absolutely legend, and I hope you're not lactose intolerant for this next part because it's dairy. Jasmine Crockett then quietly walked out after him. I was hoping for a little bit more of her legendary attitude, but we didn't get that. But at least she didn't sit there like the rest of the Democrats, sitting there quietly bidding on invisible bad art or something. Stupid ass little paddles. Following his actions, the House voted to censure Al Green for having the audacity to have a spine, which is just basically the congressional version of your stepdad telling you he's disappointed in you. Doesn't really mean anything, and nobody gives a shit what you think anyway because you're not my real dad. This was unsurprising from Republicans because they're a bunch of whiny little bitches who get offended by literally everything. This is despite members of their party heckling presidents on numerous occasions and having vocal outbursts about Jewish space lasers and Hunter Biden's sex life. But what was really disappointing is 10 Democrats joined Republicans Republicans to censure Al Green because they are pathetic pieces of shit. Those Democrats who you should call, email, and primary the shit out of for being traitors to their party and to their country are Ed Case of Hawaii, Tom Suozzi of New York, Jim Costa of California, Marie Gluesenkamp Perez of Washington, Jim Moskowitz of Florida, Amy Barra of California, Chrissy Houlihan of Pennsylvania, Marcy Kaptur of Ohio, Laura Gillen of New York, and Jim Hines of Connecticut. I think we can all agree that in the words of Pete Seeger, they need to be asked, whose side are you on? And maybe the American people need to censure them. But in the meantime, Al Green certainly seems to be willing to keep fighting the good fight, and I'm happy that he's getting the recognition from all of us that he deserves and is setting the right example for the rest of Democrats to stand up and follow. Although I'm not holding out much hope that they will, because most of them have the spine of a jellyfish.